Good morning, Ron. How are you today?
I'm good, Aristo. I just went and checked, and it looks like my grandson is inside the house. I don't see any kids at all outside. It's cold here this morning, 46 degrees
Wow.
Fahrenheit, which in Florida, that's pretty cool.
We've got about, I think it's warmer where I am now. It's, yeah, I mean, we haven't had any snow or anything like that, just a little bit of fog, and it hasn't gone down to freezing. It's in the 40s at the lowest, but it's nice. So it's 8 in the morning where, oh no, that's the other video.
It's 9:16 right now.
Okay.
Where I am.
Okay, so it's 4:16 where I am. So we're at least aligned in time-wise. So, what shall we talk about today? I have something. You know, you've been talking about the Barbara Marciniak material earlier. A whole week goes by and you talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And you jump from the spiritual stuff to the secular stuff. And I always try to look into a common thread. And usually even there, where on the one day you might be down, on the other day you might be more upbeat, there still can be a common thread, because the acceleration or deceleration of moving from the down to the up or the up to the down has, it's not your downs and your ups aren't in isolation, and nobody's downs and ups. You know, you can't separate the two. The transition point is always really, really important. And it's the part that most people don't notice. You know, usually one moment we're down and we're awake about being down and everything seems bleak and this and that, and then some time passes and it's different, you know, and I can understand, okay, you fall asleep, you wake up, you're refreshed, and so your body is more healthy and you've done away with toxins, which means that a healthier state is always more uplifted. When upliftment, not new age bliss, whatever, but a sign of optimism, the ability to perceive solutions, the ability to discern even when you have an insurmountable problem, you have a sense of recognition that you can overcome the problem, that it's not hopeless. Basically, the perception of hopelessness is a direct reflection of the perception of one's felt weakness, of being bogged down by psychic or physical toxins, of not feeling up to the task, in other words, of being weighted down. So the internal state and how we view the world are very much congruent. How the world is another story. Now the thing is, how the world is, that keeps changing, however, according to our moods. You know,
and according to what's going on in our environment. When I came home New Year's Eve from the drum circle, my house was not a happy place. Let's just put it that way. And certain members of my family don't even remember what was going on. That's how wasted they were.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, on the contrary, this is the first New Year's that I decided not to drink a bottle of champagne. And I used to drink quite a bit in my day, and usually it's a social thing, you know, a good time and all of that. When I lived in the United States in college, it was more peer pressure. But I'm not naturally, you know, an pro-alcohol type person.
Me either, actually.
I basically get hangovers easily and I fall asleep. But I don't like when you get so drunk. It's interesting, and you mentioned that also, that the primitive stuff starts coming out. You know, parts of you, repressed desires and all of that. So for me, it's basically, well, this thing shouldn't be repressed. These desires should be up on the surface, and that way, if you get drunk, you won't act that way. And this actually has happened. If I drink a lot these days, I fall asleep. You know, that's it. There's no change of personality at all. But when there's a social environment, there's a circulation of energy, and because we are repressed, that circulation happens easier up to the point that we do shut down. But this time I figured, look, I do not want to wake up on the first day of the year, on the new year, with a headache, feeling like crap. You know, I want to wake up refreshed. I want to be able to greet the year, you know, awake and lucid and feeling good, you know, because it sets precedence. And I have some other issues too. I have certain relatives who are, it kind of runs in certain parts of the family, this occultism thing. But in a more, you know, people who take all of their negativity and turn it into a weapon against others. You know, so
that's what happens when I've known people that are just nasty drunks, and then I've known people that are happy drunks. And
exactly.
The latter is much nicer to be around. The nasty drunks, all their shadow elements that they don't deal with when they're sober, come to the surface, and they can be really obnoxious. Really obnoxious.
You know, people who abuse spouses, who abuse children, you know, it's usually associated. But it's the repression. The thing is, the alcohol just, you know, covers up all of the repressor mechanisms. This stuff's always there. And that's the real issue. I mean, the whole thing is that, and the need to bring them to the surface so they can breathe is a kind of mental health need. It's not just an addiction. It's just that the alcohol lets you bring it to the surface and not take responsibility for it. And
and forget that it even happened.
Exactly. Denial. Denial is one of the biggest miasmas of our civilization. And it is probably the one thing that can really lead us to ruin. If we could overcome denial and find a different way, then it would be a whole different story. But then the how to overcome denial, even though it's a really simple thing, it's just to open up.
Tell the truth.
Exactly. Feel the truth.
A little bit more, but I mean...
You know, there's a lot of people, I can tell you, that tell the truth but are still assholes. You know, that use the truth in such a way...
As a weapon.
Exactly. You know, and they also lie to a certain degree. I mean, if you told the whole truth, can you process the truth that you tell? Is it really the truth if you can't process it, if you can't understand it? Are you just describing an appearance that you believe is the truth? So calling it like you see it before you really digest it, you know, children tell the truth. Some children get their parents in trouble. They can go to the police and tell the truth. And, you know, and since the police are corrupt, their parents can get into trouble. And that's what the system wants. So...
Well, I pointed out to my adult family why my grandson acts the way he does. I said, you're both modeling the behavior that he exhibits.
Exactly. You know, but of course, this thing goes back to generations, and we're not just the so-called sins of the fathers and of the parents and all that. I mean, what we're dealing with is not just from our parents, it's from our grandparents, etc., and all the way down the line. It goes down into a historic precedence, but it all comes down to not being able to process reality. So what I wanted to talk about today is not just the alcohol and all of that.
Oh, of course not.
But, you know, basically the idea, my point with that was I broke tradition, you know, because there was a kind of superstition of, oh, you know, New Year's, you do it this way, you know, then you'll have bad luck if you don't, etc., etc. There's some kind of background thought. But this time I said, no, I'm going to take the matters into my own hand and do things meaningfully and to the point, and the vibrations were much clearer. It's not just that I was healthier or avoid the alcohol. It was the mood got better because I wasn't stuck in this collective cloud of people just, you know, because that's what New Year's is, essentially, by getting drunk in that manner. I mean, it's not the alcohol again. It's sometimes drinking is cool to a certain point. Partying is okay, celebrating. But the point is, it's done for the purpose of repressing everything and then forgetting, you know, basically crapping. You know, it's a kind of crapping on everything and then covering it up and forgetting about it and waking up like crap, and that sets the precedence for the whole year. I'm going to spend another year repressing, denying, and forgetting, you know. And that's my New Year's resolution, and that's why most people can't get any other New Year's resolution.
The unconscious resolution, the unspoken.
And what happens if we, you know, refuse that resolution? You know, then a lot of insecurity sets in. I mean, for people to face up, look at how many other people apologize. Now, apology is basically confession. That's what the word means. It's coming apologos. You get up and you basically confess something you've done wrong, and you feel sorry, which means you debase yourself. You know, you see in some cultures they bow down, they scrape their nose on the ground. You know, you punish yourself. The idea that if you have repressed negativity or something, is always that you are going to be punished. And this is what gets me, because there's so many real criminals in the world that were always saying we have to forgive, when most everybody else is punishing themselves or saying don't blame yourself. You know, it's like, no, don't blame others, but don't blame yourself either, or else blame everybody. It amounts to the same thing. Either we share the blame completely, but we have to have a different relationship to the concept of blame if we don't want to hurt ourselves and other people. I mean, children learn at a young age that it's far better to lie than to get punished. Every time I told the truth, I got punished, and then I was stupid. I even heard my parents behind my back say, boy, is he stupid, he's fucking ugly. You know, he's, and I heard other people say too, oh, this guy's honest, he's stupid. And it's the other person who gets away with everything provides a different example. So the idea is that people are afraid to fess up, to not just tell the truth, but to admit it to themselves, because we're policed from the inside and the outside. And that's part of the problem. It's like, get rid of the cops on the inside first. You know, get rid of the judges on the inside first. Forget about judging other people. That's the shadow wants to do that, because it's been judged so much that it's got to give back some of it. It's not real judgment. If you recognize it as, part of shadow expression and understand it, can even communicate that to somebody else, like you do. One day you emit some shadow element or whatever, and the next day you don't apologize for it, but you say, this is what that was. I'm dealing with this. You're watching a process, or an organic process of dealing with it. And as it evolves, it gets even more constructive, and you have the privilege, the situation of getting feedback for it at the same time, and dealing with the feedback.
Yeah, it's funny, because New Year's Day, I didn't want to do a video New Year's Day. I mean, it got in, I don't remember exactly what time I started. It was in the evening, and I had no clue what I was going to talk about, because all I was thinking about all day was what happened the night before, or actually the morning before, and I was just dwelling pretty much totally on that all day long. And anyway, then the thing that I did was the Obama, which sort of fit in perfectly, the synchronicity of that coming to me. I thought, that's the perfect lead-in, that I don't have to go into the detail of what happened in my house. I can beat around the bush and still say what I want to say.
Well, you have to express it. I mean, think about it. Have you ever gone to a bar where everybody's wasted having a good time, but you're the designated driver, and they're not, and then as the night goes on, the pleasantries get more and more coarse. You get to the point that everybody forgets the next day, except the bartender who's used to it, But and you basically have to put up with everybody's crap, and you say, okay, that's it. But these days, the whole situation of repressing and having the luxury of forgetting about it. I've known people who have mastered the art. The alcohol doesn't really make them forget. It's a conscious, almost like a subliminal suggestion. You hear about people who go out and do things, and then they forget with just one drink. Where they can have a drink in another context and they don't do it. And there's people that basically forget even without drinking. They just learn denial so well that it becomes an art form. And in a way, you can repress your emotions that way. You can repress your empathy, and thus the psychopath becomes a psychopath, because constant genetic adaptation, epigenetic adaptation to a continuous stimulus, and inherited that way, where empathy is a hindrance. It gets you either in trouble because you have to slow down, there are bumps in the road, you got to clear the path in order to clear your path and make things a lot more healthy for you. But then the energy flow becomes more life-affirming, and it's a positive thing. However, when you have people adapted that way, they don't want you to rain on their parade. They have to face the fact that they're really weak, that they're going to be quite low on the so-called scale of evolution, like everything is until it builds itself up. So they find themselves temporarily at the top for whatever reason, and they find that killing empathy and all of this and adapting in that way puts them there. Then anybody who is able to rise with empathy and with compassion and with honesty is actually much stronger than them. And they have to keep them down because they're going to find the whole hierarchy turned upside down and themselves on the bottom. But they've defined the hierarchy and they cannot comprehend that somebody who's risen in a healthy manner, so to speak, who's become whole, truly does not see things that way. And understands that we want to remove the temptation for people to become psychopaths. Honesty and compassion do that, but honesty and compassion cannot exist in a vacuum. You've had the privilege of actually experiencing New Year's Eve in the middle of your family's shadow, and being wide awake.
Well, it's funny because I went to a drum circle on the beach, and, there was no drinking or alcohol or anything there. I mean, we're not having a non-alcoholic New Year's Eve, and then I come home where they had polished off almost a total 1.75 liter of rum. 2 people. And, there was an inch left in the bottom of the bottle. And it was a totally different atmosphere, but I had the premonition all evening that that's what I was going to come home to.
Yeah.
I felt it even before I faced it.
People who basically, the establishment gives you so-called, it's a calculated matrix, so to speak. So it gives all these repressives and tortures and restrictions and enslavements, but then at the same time it presents these ways out. It's like, get drunk on New Year's, let go on every Saturday, do this, do that, take a couple of pills, learn to repress. And in the long run, it's going to destroy you. But in the short run, it gives you an adaptation. And every day you watch TV and everything else that says, be a good little soldier, be a good little matrix person. And everybody will love you. And all these people in the sitcoms hugging each other and false celebrations. And that's the thing. For me, unless we learn to deal with the idea of false celebrations, we can never have a real one. You often mention the partying in the street, dancing in the street, the big event and all of this. And whenever I tuned into that, I was like, well, no, I see something completely different. If there's a big event, people are going to start releasing everything they kept repressed because it's safe to do so. You're going to have a lot of grieving, a lot of crying, a lot of rage being expressed. And nobody's going to feel like partying. It's going to feel anticlimactic because there's so much that they have to deal with now. And they're going to have to deal with it in a way, they're going to start realizing that it's okay to do so. That there isn't going to be blame and there isn't going to be fear. It keeps us repressed. It's the one emotion that stomps all the other ones down. And we get enraged in order to release all these other ones. So it is a mess. And that's why I know I don't have time to do so, but my main theme was going to be the idea of holding a vibration. To be able to be in the middle. Because that's the thing. You've witnessed how your family is, and I've experienced the same thing, and immediate environments, and social environments, and internet environments. All of these things will, usually when we hold the highest aspiration, when we're most uplifted, and I'm ready to face it. You're in a drumming circle, that creates a certain vibration. It's a certain vibration of empowerment and connection. So now as a shaman, you're ready to go into the dark tent to face the demons. And that's what happens. When you feel uplifted, you're sending a sign to the universe that you're ready to face what needs to be faced. So, it's not going to be pleasant, but you are challenged to make it so. When you heal something, you take it from the unpleasant and you move it into the pleasant, but you do so honestly and not pretentiously. You don't kill symptoms, you actually address the cause. So we're learning to be shamans in that manner. And we're learning to witness something that I've witnessed personally, and as a scientist, I've doubted it for many years. But the idea that vibration affects reality. even if it only affects mood, can you imagine affecting the mood of people to actually get them to be on the same page and do something? You know, let's not.
That's what I'm hoping for in 2014. How to accomplish it, I'm not sure.
Well, I've been looking at Mayan prophecies. Maybe this can help something. And essentially, I believe people now, in hindsight, you can see things a little more clearly. And the ninth wave type of thing, as it was moving along, all that said was that the underworlds are going to come up to the surface, and you're going to see everything clearly. Didn't say that you're going to go into paradise or things are going to be no time. Yes, no time means that if you are seeing everything clearly, the present moment is perceived as it is. It doesn't mean that everything's going to go into freeze frame. So people are going into these crazy interpretations when they don't understand that the shamans that gave us these prophecies were down-to-earth people. You know, they're asking us to look at existing reality in a deeper way. They're not telling us go off into some other dimension. So if you look again, archaeologists have come out and the 2012 thing and all of that. And Marciniak has also said that we have a window between 1987 and 2012. And you guys have up to 2012 to get it together and change your frequency, or else we're all screwed. And so now we're past 2012, and apparently nothing's changed, so we're screwed. And I disagree. I believe that the person interpreted the channeled message in a different manner, and that the channeled source, so to speak, did not comprehend the difference in interpretation. The mistranslation did not get caught. So what I believe happened here, what I believe they really meant was that some of us need to be able to behold a vibration by 2012. At least to have the experience of what the vibration of transformation is like. To be awakened to the situation and know that there's a different radio station. To turn away from the first radio station and look elsewhere, even if we haven't grounded another radio station. The fact is that a lot of people, like you said, are awake. A lot of people are vibrating differently, even if intermittently they're learning. A lot of people have gotten on the page of positive change, but nothing has changed yet. Well, really, nobody said it was all going to change in 2012 except a couple of New Agers who seem to be selling a lot of books. You know. If you really look at the Mayan prophecies that follow 2012, they're not pretty. And they go up to the next 52-year period, basically 2064. And it's the same old until 2030, when really nasty crap's going to happen. 2030, 40, and 50 is going to be a hell on earth type of situation, according to them. But again, these Mayans believed in cyclical time. Time was a circle, and it never changed. You've had some conversations with Peter Van Runt about the ages, the golden age, this age, the iron age. So we go from golden age, the iron age, the copper age, etc., and it goes back again, and what's the point?
Yeah, by the way, Peter Van Runt has been doing a lot of ceremonies with Jagamara. He was supposed to do a conversation with me this week, but Jagamara has been running him all over the place doing these aboriginal ceremonies, and it's really interesting. He apologized to me that he hasn't been able to get with me, but he has been really busy. But we're going to get an interview in hopefully this coming week.
That's pretty cool. I mean, those ceremonies are meant, and you know they're very perceptive because the geographic energy. Did you know the Aborigines came to Australia around 90,000 years ago? And when they came to Australia, the place was connected to, Eurasia, and it was full of forest. You could barely walk through because they had these giant trees, and wherever there were clearings, there were giant turtles, animals, all kinds of species that didn't exist anywhere in the world. And the energy was so fantastic that it got them drunk. Now, these people came from Africa, and they started doing what the Native Americans did. They killed everything in sight. And then they lit fires and burned the forest down. They burnt the whole continent down and turned it into a desert. And from then, and obviously you can imagine, they overpopulated the place, and then they starved, and it was hell on earth for them because of their own actions. And these people had no technology. They just came in an abundant hunting ground and went crazy. And obviously then their whole philosophy changed into one where they walked from back and forth, they didn't stay in one place, they touch as little as possible, and they interact in a way that's very reverential. But can you imagine the trauma that has gone, and the geographic imprint, the imprint on the geographic vortices and energies that such an event can have? And these species have never returned. They did, and this wasn't white man or some society of technological people or psychopaths. This was normal people coming down and freaking out at what the earth can offer us. And so,
but Jagamara's thing is he's singing the law, then speaking it, doing the sand paintings and making mandalas on the earth. I mean, I saw some of where they were in a conversation with Peter, with Jagamara there and a few other people as well. So it's interesting dynamic that's taking place there.
Definitely.
As they're preparing the aboriginal way of preparing for the changes that are coming to the planet.
They know they need to do this. First of all, they know what it means to need to adapt to life. Too much life freaks us out. And we are adapting to it, and the part of us that can sustain that extra life is the shadow. And it's all hurt because we couldn't take it, we hadn't evolved, for whatever reason. But they know they need to do it with the white people. The genetic vibration of their own people, the geographic vibration, and the vibration of the white people has formed a new synthesis. And this synthesis then can alchemically circulate and create a vibration, holding a vibration and basically changing the world with it. But when I say change the world, people usually think a light switch, No, you change vibration through a domino effect with other vibrations, and this digests more, and it's going to bring more on your plate. So the fact is that the Mayan calendar said that between 2013, 14, and all of this, and the end of the first Katun, which is like 52 years or something, there's a period of digestion. And what's going on now is unprecedented. There are elements that the Mayans could have never foreseen. They could not connect with the vibration of the Europeans before the Europeans came, except in a rudimentary manner through whatever ancient peoples, merchants, and all of that. But the whole thing that there's an evolutionary twist that has led to the supremacy of the psychopaths in the historic period forces us to bring everything to the surface. It's a do or die type of situation. This has never been done before, because in the past it was always New Year's Day. The end of a cycle, everybody got drunk, passed out, and the world ended because the shadow was running amok. This time it's going to be different, but we need to observe the process as it happens and validate that instead of constantly being obsessed with the outcome, because the process is always a piece of the outcome. It's a tiny piece, and it can slowly give us an understanding of what the outcome might be, because like you have often said, it's unscripted at this point, and we're making it happen. So where are we time-wise?
Almost 29 minutes.
Oh wow, I thought we were way over. But it's very difficult for people to get, and understandably so. One of the things I strive for myself is to remember what it was like not to get something. To remember what it was like to be confused, to be frustrated, to want to be impatient, So then when I deal with other people, I can bring up that memory and say, look, even if I have a certain psychic wealth now, I need to remember what it was like to be impoverished, and that way you can relate to other people. But then again, it doesn't excuse the other people, because you also remember what motivated you. You also remember that even if you've gained just a little bit, what happened to help you gain that little bit, and that's a resource, because you can repeat it, and you can inspire others to repeat the same thing. So there's a lot going on, and I think we're going to be too busy to worry about, when it's going to happen and what's going to happen. what's this about the idle hands make the devil's handiwork? When you stop worrying about the future, then you're involved in the present, you know. And the thing is, though, the future is the source of our desire as well as of our uncertainty, you know. That the future holds all the possibilities, and it's also uncertain, but that's part of what it is. And the past holds all of our experience, and it's part of what it is. But in reality, their meeting point is what's really real, and that's what we experience. The rest are just projections. So holding a vibration in the present moment, what does that mean? I'm not even going to go into that. You know, that's for another day. But
that'll be another conversation.
Exactly. But I don't even need to go into it, because what I suggest people do is intuitively, we talked about the energy body and the meditation and all of that, people to go into themselves and feel what it means. Do not force a vibration. A vibration is a natural mating of the shadow and your highest self, your highest aspiration, where you are right now. So it's a combination of the shadow, your highest aspiration, and where you are right now. 3 elements, and it's just, if someone can ponder that a little bit, not mentally, but in the gut and the heart, then they can feel what a vibration is, working through. The more you work through the shadow on your own, the less you will encounter it on the outside world. In the beginning, that means slipping through the cracks of whatever system you're in or situation, and that might be a little bothersome, but eventually the cracks are going to get wider and wider. And observing that phenomena is what's going to validate you and tell you, yeah, I'm on the right track. So that is what I wanted to say today. Thank you once again for being patient.
Thank you, Aristo. And it was an interesting conversation, and I actually got to say some things I didn't feel comfortable saying New Year's Day or New Year's night.
In a cool context, too. I mean, you needed to say them. It had to happen. And I'm just glad we got through this. I mean, we didn't have to wait and just, okay. Yeah. I'm glad you called. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and have a great week, and we'll talk again next Friday unless we change it before then.
Whatever happens, most definitely. I'm looking forward to your future talk with Peter Van Runt as well.
Yeah, I am too, and another one with Jagamara, and I actually have a friend from Canada who has been doing a lot of research on twin flames and stuff, and he has requested a conversation with me, and perhaps within the next week we'll schedule that. So I might be doing some more conversations this coming week than normal.
That's great. Have you ever considered well, no, the videos are cool. I mean, you're doing so many conversations, you might as well start your own radio show or something.
I don't know. People suggest all sorts of things to me.
All sorts of things, yeah, I know. They suggest it to me too. Forget it. Till next week, Ron, and thank you.
Okay.
Namaste.
Okay, thanks, Aristo.